This story kicks off by revealing that in just 10 years, the Eastern Federation Kingdom is destined to crumble under the weight of the 5 great sins, leading to total destruction with nothing left behind. To stop this catastrophe, our main character has taken on the role of their patron, but he never anticipated it would spiral into such a huge ordeal. Initially, he was just a regular guy, slogging through 78-hour workweeks in the modern world, but somehow he ends up inhabiting a noble in a fantasy realm. While that sounds great, he quickly realizes he's illiterate and lacks any special powers. He figures he should at least know the language, which leaves the butler dumbfounded when he sees our guy holding a book upside down. At mealtime, the maids serve him a massive feast, and he digs in, relishing his new life. They even assist him with his bath, and he can't help but think that being a young master of the Count's family is fantastic. He gets to be pampered and useless, and he feels like he's on cloud 9. But there's a catch: he has no clue where he is. Usually when someone takes over a character in a fantasy world, it's from a book or a game they've played. One of the maids mentions that his brothers, young Master Leo and Tonio, will be back tomorrow, so he should get some rest. Our MC is puzzled by this, and the maid is a bit surprised that he can't even recall his own family. As he starts to piece things together, those names ring a bell. Suddenly it dawns on him. He's in the world of Psychedelia. Psychedelia is a turn-based RPG that our MC used to play whenever he had a spare moment. But here's the kicker: no matter what path you choose in the game, the moment the 5 great sins wrath, greed, sloth, pride, and obsession show up, you're basically fucked. The kingdom's nobility and the entire city, basically everything, starts to spiral into chaos. And the Palacio house where our MC finds himself is a notorious noble family that plays a part in the subquest before the main story kicks off. The eldest son, Leo Palacio, is essentially the king of prostitutes, while the second son, Tonio, is the king of drugs. He drops to his knees as it dawns on him just how well he knows this place. It was the first subquest in the game. Looking around, he sees that the main house looks exactly like it did in the game. The Palacios are the first to be devastated by the 5 great sins, and he's the extra villain. The third son of the Palacio household, Alan Palacio. I love how expressionless his face is. He just found out he's going to die soon, and all he can think about is how much experience points he got from that subquest. As he lies down in bed, he's terrified to even sleep. He thinks about how he'd rather go back to being a wage slave working 78 hours a week, because this new luxurious life of his is set to end in exactly 10 years. To him, that's worse than 6 months of unpaid wages. He can't believe he's stuck in a fantasy world as a character with no powers. Pretty much the opposite of what most people get when they're reincarnated. But then an idea strikes him. Since he knows what's going to happen in the future, he could be like a prophet of sorts. He could prevent the world's downfall by reforming the 5 great sins, all for the sake of his peaceful, noble life. It shouldn't be impossible, considering the 5 great sins are just kids right now. But with no powers of his own, how on earth is he going to pull this off? 2 months later, our main character had successfully rescued some orphans from the human testing center. When I say our MC managed to, I really mean his knight. Evan was the one who did the rescuing. Evan reports that he's left the management of the orphanage in the hands of a girl named Yutia. Our MC nods in agreement, realizing he made the right choice in picking Evan for this job, as he's quite skilled at handling such tasks. However, since our MC struggles to show emotions on his face like a typical person, Evan is left puzzled, wondering if what he just heard was a compliment, as he can't quite read his expression. To clarify, our MC tries to force a smile, and Evan thinks he'll never get used to his young master's face. He recalls how Alan used to wear his emotions on his sleeve, whether he was gloomy or happy, but now it just feels strange. Even our MC suspects that his possession of Alan's body might have only affected his face, as he can't seem to smile properly. Moving on, Evan decides to accept his young master's praise, and our MC explains that Evan is a rare gem in the world of psychedelia because he has remained honest and loyal despite all the betrayals around him. That's why he hired him as soon as he found him. Back to the report. Evan mentions that the reason our MC sent him to rescue the children from the testing center was to save Yutia, which our MC confirms. Evan adds that he can see why. Even with his experience as a mercenary, he can tell Yutia is no ordinary child. She's strong enough that he can't understand why she just accepted being locked up. Evan questions why our MC didn't bring her to the estate, as keeping her at the orphanage doesn't seem beneficial. Our MC agrees, but internally he thinks that it might look like he's neglecting her instead of utilizing her potential. However, leaving her at the orphanage is part of his plan. Yutia Blutia is a non-human who makes a pact with an otherworldly being to gain its powers, ultimately becoming the embodiment of the wrath of the 5 great sins and causing the deaths of countless people. However, thanks to our hero, that grim future is averted, and he wants her to grow up in peace. He believes he has finally dealt with one of the 4 remaining landmine disasters, but since he can't share this with Evan, he decides to come up with an excuse. Acting all mysterious, he tells Evan that the time isn't right yet. Evan, curious as always, wonders what he means, But as is often the case, side characters have their own narratives. He assures our hero that he understands. Our main character urges him to keep this under wraps, and to support the orphanage with enough funds for them to live peacefully. He also hands Evan a handwritten letter, asking him to pass it to Yutia. When Evan inquires about the letter's importance, our hero brushes it off, saying it's just a way to check in on her. He explains that he wants to reassure her since she's been through so much. Evan promises to deliver the letter and quickly sets off on his horse. Meanwhile, our main character reflects on whether the letter will truly comfort her, but he figures it's worth a shot. The real intention behind the letter is to include some quotes he's heard repeatedly in the game. During a pivotal moment when Yutia was wreaking havoc on the kingdom, the Archbishop mentioned a specific line about how a certain spell could help befriend a non-human like Yutia, who had already succumbed to the sin of wrath. The line was something like casting a spell of agony from the dark, with the brightness of belonging to the fall. Honestly, he doesn't quite grasp what it means, but it seemed to resonate with Yutia for a brief moment. As the story unfolds, Yutia ends up killing the Archbishop. It's not that the spell didn't work, it was just too late, and her attempts to calm down failed, resulting in the destruction of the entire kingdom. Now our main character believes it should work this time, since it's not too late. He figures that since he's dealt with wrath, it's time to move on to his next target. Yet, he still finds it absurd to think about becoming friends with a monster just because of a quote. But who knows, maybe it'll actually work, especially since the Sins seem to worship some mysterious god or otherworldly being. He struggles to understand what those kids are thinking. They come off as fanatics. Meanwhile, we finally see Yutia reading the letter our MC sent her, and she's not exactly thrilled. Just looking at her, Evan can't help but notice the sheer amount of mana radiating from her. It's unbelievable. According to Evan, this little girl is the strangest person he's ever met. It's as if she has no emotions at all. She asks Evan to confirm if our MC was the one who sent the letter, and he nods. In an instant, Yutia unleashes her mana like a crazed yander who just caught her partner cheating. She's upset that our MC didn't invite her to the estate, and Evan is about to feel the full force of her rage. Manifesting mana in solid form, like Yutia is doing now, is something only those who have reached the Master Realm can achieve. Evan recalls our MC saying it wasn't the right time for him to meet with her yet, and surprisingly, that excuse seems to work. Yutia calms down, interpreting the quote our boy included in the letter as a promise only her master would understand. Meanwhile, Evan is left bewildered, wondering what on earth is happening in front of him. Yutia, fully in her yander mode, insists that she understands what our boy meant. This girl, who honestly resembles Sheltir Bloodfallen from Overlord, embodies the sin of wrath as the daughter of monsters, the bloody queen Yutia. Meanwhile, back to our main character. He thinks he's managed to stretch his luxurious lifespan a bit. And honestly, he's not wrong. As he drifts off to sleep, he even imagines the bright moon in the sky cheering him on. He promises himself to work hard on rescuing the next child. We get this adorable little bonus panel of him placing a primrose flower on his bed before he dozes off. He thinks all he really wants is to live a long, peaceful, luxurious life. Is that too much to ask? In the Astria Kingdom, there's a tradition of placing primrose flowers on wounds or old scars for the deceased during funerals, which basically means our boy is in deep trouble. The next day, our MC finds himself in the library, where books are literally falling on his head, as if they're trying to kick his illiterate ass out. He's currently on the hunt for clues about the third sin, let's call them landmines, but the whole process is giving him a headache. Evan reports that they've successfully rescued the second child, all thanks to our boy's intel on where to find her. Our MC asks if Evan made sure they treated the child extra kindly, to which Evan confirms, explaining that after saving her from the illegal slave market, they were very gentle with her. But before he can finish, someone kicks the library door open, sending them both flying. This brute turns out to be Tonio, the second son of the County Palio. He starts bullying our MC, asking how an illiterate guy like him is even holding a book. I love our MC's bratty eyes. He's completely unfazed. As Tonio ramps up the pressure, demanding answers, our MC thinks this guy is such a nuisance. He even wonders how the original Alan would handle this kind of treatment. Realistically, he would love to fight back, but that just seems like too much hassle, so he decides to play it low-key. He tells Tonio that since it looks like he wants to use the library, he'll be taking his leave. Thinking he's completely dominated our MC, Tonio steps on his head with a mocking grin. But just then, a sharp knife whizzes by, embedding itself in the wall, as another brute enters, telling both Tonio and our MC that they're being too loud. This new arrival is Leo Palladio, the first son of the county. As these two idiots start squabbling, our MC seizes the opportunity to crawl away. He reflects that in the game, the Palladio County had quickly vanished after the first subquest, but he didn't realize their power and influence were much greater than he thought. Basically, what's really happening here is that these scummy brothers are fighting over who will become the family head. The first son is a major player in the underworld, known as the Prostitute King, while the second son runs a large-scale drug cartel, earning him the title of the Drug King. As these two buffoons bicker, our MC realizes he can't afford to get involved with either of them if he wants to maintain his sweet, luxurious life. I absolutely adore this MC. He literally crawled away while his two brothers were at each other's throats, and Evan just followed him like it was the most normal thing in the world. As Evan fixes his hair for him, our MC vows to live a happy life as a weak and incompetent bastard child. A little while later, Evan shares that the second child they rescued didn't seem quite like a typical kid either. As he gazes at the lazy master in front of him, Evan can't help but wonder how someone like this could possibly learn about the illegal slave market and the secret bio-experiments happening all over the kingdom. It's making Evan question his entire reality. Looking at this foolish master, he thinks about how hard it must be for him to keep it together around his brothers, while our main character just grumbles about being tired. Moving on, Evan wonders why he sent the second child to the orphanage again. Our MC, however, knows that this second child is anything but ordinary. In fact, he's on a whole different level. Within the United Kingdom, which is made up of several nations, the central one is the Kallian Kingdom, where the second child they saved from the illegal slave market hails from. This child, or more accurately, the second boss of psychedelia, is known as Deas. After being sold into slavery and mistreated, he ended up embodying one of the 5 sins, the sin of sloth. He then went on to wreak havoc on the kingdom in the most horrific ways imaginable. This part of the story left many players shocked by psychedelia's cruelty. Despite his title as the sin of sloth, he was actually known for being incredibly hardworking, always repaying debts and wrongs multiple times over. That's why our MC stressed to Evan the importance of treating Deas with utmost kindness. The graphics of Deas's fights were so intense that our MC still trembles just thinking about them. Trying to keep an air of mystery, he answers Evan's question by saying that he sent the second child to the orphanage because the time isn't right yet. Evan just nods along, saying he expected as much. He then asks if the letter he sent to Yutia this time was about the second child, to which our MC confirms. But in reality, we get a glimpse at what's really in that letter. He's just venting to Yutia about how his older brothers are picking on him. Honestly, this guy cracks me up. I really love this MC. Anyway, he claims in the letter that he told Yutia to look after the second child, who's feeling a bit under the weather. And in a way, he's not wrong. Deas could definitely use some time to chill and heal. Meanwhile, at the orphanage, Deas is trying to keep to himself, hiding his body covered in cuts. Yutia approaches him and asks if he's broken. She wonders if the Black Goat organization is responsible for his injuries, and just hearing that name gets a reaction out of Deas. In her Yandere mode, Yutia starts talking about how even though he's broken, he's still been chosen. She congratulates him for being selected by the Blue Moon, which is what they call our MC. It seems like Yutia is setting up an organization with our MC at the helm, and she promises Deas that if he stays loyal and follows their orders, he'll get his chance for revenge. Hearing this, something stirs within Deas, and his own magic, or maybe the authority of sloth, like in ReZero, starts to manifest. With that settled, Yutia decides to write her first reply to our letter, and for some reason, she's way too excited about it. Meanwhile, back at the estate, our main character was still deep in the library, searching for clues about how to track down the third child. Just then, Evan burst through the door, announcing that they were in big trouble. He reported that the second young master of the Palacio household was dead. Our MC, who had been expecting this news, was still taken aback by how quickly it all unfolded. The funeral was held almost immediately, but what really shocked everyone was the complete lack of mourning. Even their father showed up with 2 prostitutes by his side. Like, seriously? Our MC was a bit stunned. Bringing drugs and women to your own son's funeral is crossing a major line. He always knew this family was messed up, but this was next level. He mused that psychedelia really is a dark fantasy genre, indeed. Anyway, moving on. Our MC thought that Tonio's accidental fall seemed a bit off compared to what he remembered. In the game, Leo had cried desperately after killing his brother, shouting about how he was now the sole heir of the Count Palladio. But now, here was Leo, literally smirking in front of the body, like, come on, at least try to hide your emotions a little. Regardless, this wasn't really our MC's problem. His main focus was still on resolving the issue with the 5 deadly sins. Fast forward a year, and the successor problem was sorted out. With Leo taking over Tonio's drug business, the county became a lot more peaceful. In the meantime, Yutia and our MC had become pen pals, exchanging letters more frequently. Our MC figured that keeping in touch with her would be beneficial down the line, while Yutia filled him in on how the other kids were doing, which made him smirk since they were growing up nicely. She also sent over their monthly sponsorship list, which caught our MC's attention because it seemed to be growing quite a bit. He wondered what was going on, but Evan, who was busy stuffing his face, pointed out that while it was unusual, it was a good thing nonetheless. Evan then finally shared the news that our boy had been searching for. The information they needed had been found. They even got a call from the Information Guild about it, which was a huge relief for our main character, since it was all about the ancient book concerning the third child. This meant he could finally uncover that little landmine, and it brought him so much joy. Everything seemed to be going perfectly, and our MC was enjoying a peaceful evening. Meanwhile, on the other side of the land, at a drug distribution site called Margot, some of Leo's henchmen were boasting about how generous the eldest member of the Palacio family was, always showering them with big rewards. Thanks to that, their drug organization had grown to a few hundred members, but little did they know, that number was about to take a nosedive. What they witnessed next was pure horror. Most of their members were literally turning on themselves, screaming that they couldn't control their bodies. It was as if they were being puppeteered, leading them to take their own lives. The culprits behind this chaos were none other than our MC's children, Yutia and Deas. Using his thread magic, Deas wiped them out single-handedly. Turning to Yutia, he asked if there was really any point in killing these fools. Yutia, however, questioned whether Deas felt any pity for them. He clarified that he didn't, especially since these guys exploited human lives to produce drugs. He felt this had nothing to do with his quest for revenge. But Yutia, unleashing her magic, explained that this was essential for their master's return. They were essentially clearing out the trash in the county, so that when our MC stepped up as the heir, things would be easier for him. With a majestic smile, she wondered how they could let the place look so shabby for his arrival. Deas responded that he understood, but honestly, what did he really understand? They were treating our MC like Ainz from Overlord and Sid from Eminence in Shadow. Using her magic, Yutia etched a symbol into the ground, and as they soared away in style, she declared that everything would unfold according to his will. A massive surge of mana erupted, leaving a crescent moon shape behind, and Yutia added that they were the blue moon, destined to become his sword. Now that's some serious Eminence in Shadow vibes. It's been 2 years since our main character and Yutia became pen pals, and during that time, Evan has been working tirelessly to track down the other sins. Looking completely worn out, he finally collapses on the grass, where our boy's magic seems to revive him. Evan shares the good news that they've successfully found the 5th child and sent them to the orphanage, which really hits our MC in the feels. Even though he can't show it on his face, he explains that over the past 2 years he's managed to save all 3 remaining children, meaning he's rescued all 5 sins. To celebrate Evan's hard work, he treats him to some delicious cake and goodies, while also mentioning that finding the sin of greed, the 3rd child, was a bit of a challenge. After making Evan put in some extra hours using his game knowledge, everything worked out in the end. He praises Evan for a job well done, and now that the mission is complete, he can finally take a breather. Evan asks if this means all the orphanage duties are wrapped up, and our MC confirms it. Evan breathes a sigh of relief, but then questions why our MC doesn't seem happier about their achievement. Our boy insists he's thrilled, but Evan points out that he doesn't look it at all. Our MC tries to defend himself, saying he's smiling right now, and we even get a close-up of his mouth, only to realize this guy isn't smiling at all. You wouldn't even call it a smirk. But Evan, used to this, just rolls with it. As they move on, our MC reflects on how he didn't expect things to go so smoothly. After all, the bosses of Psychedelia became the 5 great sins due to their terrible pasts. Even though they're in the past before becoming the sins, the odds of saving them all before they went through those awful experiences were pretty slim. He was also worried he'd be too late and they'd be too broken to save. He asks Evan how things are going at the orphanage, and Evan hands him a letter, saying everything is running smoothly as usual. The kids, who once seemed like broken dolls, have really brightened up. Our main character points out that if that's true, they wouldn't need to hire a separate caretaker. That said, he didn't expect Yutia to do such a great job with the orphanage. He wonders if her background has something to do with it. In the game, she was meant to feel a sentimental connection to the place. This leads him to remark on how nice Yutia is in her own way, but Evan quickly urges him to read the letter for any important updates. In the letter, Yutia gives our boy a rundown of how the kids are doing, mentioning that they're growing well and he doesn't need to worry about them, especially Deas, who was a bit of a special case. She reassures him that all the children are improving, which brings a rare, warm smile to our main character's face. He expresses that he's just happy they're all growing up well. Deep down, he wonders if the environment is the key factor in an orphanage, since these kids are thriving. Anyway, Evan asks the big question, when does he plan to meet these kids? He always says the time will come, but our main character privately admits he has no intention of meeting them anytime soon. He thinks it would be nice to be close to them, but the kids don't exactly have personalities he's eager to be around. And honestly, he's not wrong. Having witnessed their cruelty in the game, we can't blame him. Maybe it's because of how brutal their transformation into sins was. Regardless, he thinks it shouldn't be too bad now that he managed to rescue them before those events unfolded. Yet he still feels a twinge of fear just thinking about it. So he tells Evan that he's thinking about meeting the kids in maybe 5 years. Regardless, our main character realizes that what he really needs right now is the ability to protect himself in this grim, dark fantasy world, and the answer lies in magic. As he practices, he feels lucky that the body he's in has some magical talent. Then Evan asks if he's heard of an organization called the Blue Moon. Our MC admits he hasn't. and Evan explains that Blue Moon is a group that's recently started hunting down criminal organizations. Our MC thinks that if they're cleaning up the trash, that's a good thing, but deep down he wonders why he's never heard of them in the game. He's sure they won't last long. But Evan teasingly points out that our MC should be really scared, since Blue Moon's whole thing is taking out nobles, which sends a chill down his spine. I love the chibi panels of our MC, as he tells Evan that just in case he should sleep next to his room from now on. Meanwhile, back at the orphanage, Yutia is holding the Blue Moon weekly report meeting. The Sin of Pride, Solang, reports that she took care of all the slave traders by chopping off their heads. She does some acrobatics in the air, while saying that those idiots couldn't even figure out who she really was. She even claims she gave them a chance, saying she'd let them live if they could guess the color of her eyes. But those weaklings couldn't even get that right. Then we meet the Sin of Greed, Rena, who despite her name, is more calm and elegant. She reports that all the corpses were melted down, leaving no evidence behind. The Sin of Mysophobia, Radon, reports that he also wrapped things up in the south, taking care of the illegal human testing grounds and turning those Avalon bastards who were causing trouble into minced meat. These kids are seriously scary, I tell you. Anyway, the scariest of them all, Yutia, praises them for a job well done, talking about how everything will go according to his will. She emphasizes that they all exist for the sake of the Great Moon. This secret organization worships the Great Moon, the Blue Moon, who just so happens to be our main character. Suddenly Deas reports a problem, which makes Yutia question what could possibly be wrong when everything seems perfect under his command. These fools are treating our MC like some kind of deity. Deas explains that the head of Avalon is the eldest son of the Palatio Count family, where their lord resides. He claims to have found a dangerous written order while cleaning up the south. It turns out that the eldest son, Leo, is targeting our MC. Naturally, Yutia can't let this slide. She unleashes an intense murderous aura that sends the other kids cowering in fear. The letter reveals that Leo's plan is to slowly poison our boy after eliminating their father, which sends Yutia into a furious rage. Fast forward 2 years, our MC's father, Count Palato, has passed away, and just like before, his funeral is held almost immediately. Our MC explains that while the official cause of death is heart failure, it's clear he died from an overdose. Meanwhile, at the funeral, Leo gets news that the Blue Moon has struck one of his facilities. Seriously, couldn't they have waited until after the funeral? Leo keeps asking if everyone was wiped out again. Our main character, who's just casually eavesdropping, realizes that his brother is becoming increasingly cautious about the Blue Moon. As the Count's funeral wraps up without a single tear shed, our MC decides he doesn't want to get tangled up in all this drama and quietly slips away, just as his brother shoots him a planning glare. When Evan asks what our MC plans to do next, since it looks like that jerk of a brother is on track to become the new Count, our MC is already one step ahead. He's been packing his bags and tells Evan to do the same. The plan? To run away from this mess. Evan questions whether he really intends to flee, and our MC clarifies that it's not a complete getaway. They're just heading downtown to lay low for a bit. When Evan asks if he means the town of Rodmill, our guy confirms it. He's been eyeing Rodmill for a while now, and it's a small town in the south of Paleo, making it the perfect hideout. Plus, he's timed it well since Leo has been giving him some seriously unsettling looks. Once they arrive in Rodmill, our MC actually starts enjoying life, whipping up some delicious-looking toast while Evan just goes along with everything like it's the most normal thing ever. But 3 days later, their peaceful existence is shattered when our MC is forced to return home for his brother's funeral. He can't believe he's back so soon. According to the game, Leo wasn't supposed to die yet. The cause of the death is a stab through the heart, which leaves our MC wondering who could have done such a thing. He tries to ask one of the servants about the details, but they scream in horror, as if they're about to meet their end. It's not just that, all the servants are acting strangely, overly apologetic, and treating him like he's some kind of mafia boss. He can't help but wonder what's going on with these people. As he's making his way out, Evan catches up to him, and he asks him if he found out why the servants are acting so weird. Evan claims he did, and playfully wonders if our MC was the one who made the Avalon drug organization disappear overnight. Turns out Leo was the head of that organization, and now that he's gone, it seems like the whole thing vanished without a trace. We then flash back to the day our main character set off for Rodmill. Inside the carriage, Evan was curious, asking why he's heading to a small town like Rodmill instead of a bustling city. Our MC explains that a city is simply not an option for him. Rodmill is his ultimate destination, the endgame in all his plans. He shares that his mission is straightforward: save the 5 great sins from their misfortunes to prevent the world from crumbling. Plus, since Rodmill isn't part of the original story and has a villa, it's the ideal spot for him. A villa is a separate estate, making it the perfect hideaway for a laid-back noble like him, where he can relax and do absolutely nothing. Honestly, I share that dream. If you like this video, it would really help me out with my bills and give me some much-needed downtime. Anyway, our MC gets serious when answering Evan's question. insisting that everything he does has a purpose. But after hearing the same old responses for a while, Evan calls him out, pointing out that he always uses those same lines when he wants to dodge a question. He tells our MC that he can't fool him anymore. Our MC is taken aback by how Evan has seen through his little lies. As their banter continues, Leo, who's been watching our MC drive away, contemplates whether he should kill him or not. According to Leo, it doesn't really matter if our MC lives or dies. He had already planned to poison him. But now that our MC has decided to leave for the border, Leo feels he has no reason to go through with it. Yet for some inexplicable reason, he still feels the urge to eliminate him. He instructs one of his henchmen, Ullman, to follow the carriage. Ullman, however, asks if that means he's supposed to kill the MC. This question leaves Leo baffled. Ullman has never questioned him before, no matter what orders he received. He usually just follows them without a word, so for him to speak up like this feels a bit odd. Leo reminds Ullman that his job is to obey him, but before he can finish, Ullman lunges at him, stabbing him right through the heart. Leo, in shock, shouts out why Ullman would betray him like this, but Ullman simply replies that he enjoys playing war. We soon discover that Ullman is actually part of the Blue Moon organization, and his real name is Hidden. He explains that they've been taught a creed by Blue Moon. Since the Blue Moon is essentially our MC's sword, it makes sense for them to act according to his wishes. However, if anyone dares to threaten the Great Blue Moon, our MC, they're allowed to take matters into their own hands, meaning they can eliminate the threat. Hidden reveals he's been waiting for Leo to give the order to kill their lord, and he can't believe it took 2 years for that to happen. Leo tries to argue that his subordinates won't let Hidden live, but Hidden counters that with Leo's death, the entire organization will be wiped off the continent forever. Looking at Leo's lifeless body, Hidden can't help but comment on how unfortunate this all is. If Leo hadn't tried to kill their great master, he might have lived a few more months or even years. Meanwhile, in the present, our MC is enjoying his dream life in the small town of Rodmill. He wakes up whenever he wants and shares delicious meals with Evan, living the life of a true noble. But as fate would have it, his peaceful existence is shattered when he receives a letter. The letter requested that he step up as the next head of the family. Just like that, his carefree life came to an end, a mere 4 days after it began, forcing him to return to the palatial estate. However, things felt off. The maids and other staff were acting strangely around him. He couldn't help but wonder what was behind their odd behavior. Then Evan teasingly asked him when he had become the shadow leader, leaving him completely baffled. It dawned on him that all this fuss was due to the bizarre circumstances surrounding his brother's death, which had led to his current predicament. In his usual dramatic fashion, he started sobbing, pleading with Evan to help him understand why he was seen as the villain in this story. Evan pointed out that since he stood to gain the most from the situation, it was only natural for people to suspect he had a hand in his brother's murder. Right after he left the estate, Leo was killed, and our main character had the perfect alibi to step into the role of the next count. Realizing how his plan to avoid this mess had backfired, he felt a wave of frustration. But Evan tried to lift his spirits, explaining that with the drug organization, Avalon out of the picture, and his brother gone, he wouldn't have to worry about anything anymore. Evan jokingly added that, in short, our main character was now the new shadow leader of the county, who had supposedly orchestrated the assassination of a swordmaster. Despite Leo's scummy reputation, he was still regarded as a swordmaster. Our main character began to ponder where to even begin, as he couldn't think of any organization capable of taking out a key figure in the underworld so swiftly. He asked Evan about the group he had heard hunted other organizations, to which Evan wondered if he meant the Blue Moon. Our main character speculated whether the Blue Moon could be behind his brother's death and the downfall of Avalon. However, Evan quickly clears things up, saying that according to the Information Guild, the Blue Moon isn't to blame. Instead of leaving behind bodies, the Blue Moon is known for marking the moon itself. That's just how it operates. But it's rumored that all the members of Avalon met their end with a sword through the heart. Evan can't help but tease our MC, joking that the road to hell has been opened. But putting jokes aside, our MC reflects on his game knowledge, realizing there shouldn't be any organization called the Blue Moon, which means they can't be responsible for this mess. But if it's not them, then who could it be? As he tries to piece everything together, the scene shifts to the orphanage where Yutia is holding a meeting with the other great sins. She asks if everything went smoothly, and Rena, the sin of greed, confirms that she left no traces behind. Solang, the sin of pride, adds that there was no one left alive on her end, just corpses. Deas chimes in, boasting that he took out all 486 soldiers of Avalon. His magic is quite something, like a beautiful butterfly tangled in spiderwebs. Then there's Rena, the sin of mysophobia, who also confirms that he cut down all the bad guys in half. Yutia praises them for their work, but she's a pretty intimidating child. There are whispers that she's actually over 1,000 years old in the novel, but who really knows? That's how Avalon, the most notorious drug organization in the world that brought doom to the Asteria Kingdom, was wiped out in just 5 days. But suddenly, Radon mentions that he doesn't think the cleanup was flawless. When Yutia asks what he means, Radon explains that he stumbled upon some intriguing documents linked to the nobles associated with Avalon, particularly the Altia Doctum, which has some deep ties. Hearing this, Yutia's magic starts to flare up, and she tells the others they already know what she's about to say. It's time to wipe them out. Radon promises to handle it quietly. Moving on, Yutia then asks if the Information Guild is clean, and whether they have any ties to Avalon. Rena confirms this, explaining that the guild matter is being dealt with separately from the other issue concerning the Blue Moon. Deas, on the other hand, claims that all the guilds behave similarly, referring to it as the Hell Sword crafted by the Swordmaster. Hearing this, Rena inquires if she should keep tabs on our MC's movements, to which Yutia agrees, emphasizing that this entire situation must not reach that person's ears. She insists she has mentioned this multiple times, and they should all be aware of it. When she refers to that person, she essentially means our MC. Deas points out that since that person's family targeted them first, the order to eliminate them wasn't sanctioned by them. Upon hearing this, Yutia starts to panic. In her opinion, all their actions must be driven by a direct order from our MC. She claims they are essentially swords, and a sword should never think for itself. She declares to the other sins that from this moment on, all members of the Blue Moon must only act on orders, and they should take this decree seriously. This leaves the other sins feeling a bit uneasy, as Yutia adds that they must never disappoint that person, no matter what. Inwardly, Deas thinks he can't quite grasp any of this. For someone as powerful as Yutia to feel anxiety and restlessness, simply because she's discovered by that person seems excessive, but nevertheless, he tells Yutia that he understands. They conclude their meetings by chanting that everything is for the Great Moon, which is essentially afraid how the Shadow Garden from Eminence in Shadow wraps up their meetings. Meanwhile, back to our MC, he finds himself buried in paperwork as the new Count of Palacio. He explains that after his brother's funeral, he faced a full month of endless duties, and he feels overwhelmed by them. He starts shedding some tears, lamenting that he just wants to loaf around and do nothing. This fool even claims that's what it means to be a noble. Anyway, he couldn't help but think that even though he had made quite a few enemies, his brother Leo's death was supposed to happen 6 years from now. But with the strange circumstances surrounding all his brother's deaths, everything shifted, and now all the family responsibilities had landed on him as the sole heir. Just then, a few ministers from the county walked in, bringing even more paperwork for him to deal with. He closed his eyes and started to wonder why everyone in the county suddenly seemed to be working so hard. Back when his father was still the count, they would slack off and treat work like a rainy school day. He waved at them, signaling to drop the paperwork on his desk. But in the minister's eyes, he was radiating a deathly aura. They began to worry if they had somehow angered him, with some even vowing to work even harder to avoid any consequences. He was a secret mastermind who would eliminate anyone who displeased him. But having been a former workhorse himself, he wasn't handling all this pressure very well. He wondered if it would be possible to get the ministers to do all the work for him. Later that night, Evan was a bit shocked to find out that our boy had reached the 2nd tier in magic after just 2 years of self-study in poisoncraft, which meant he was quite talented and not shy about showing it. The little rascal was casting spells all over the house. Normally it takes about 4 to 5 years of instruction to reach the 2nd tier in magic, and it often requires a natural talent as well. Our protagonist agreed that his magical talent was pretty decent. Deep down though, he knows he's been practicing hard for self-defense because something just doesn't feel right. To wield magic effectively for protection, one must have perfect control over their mana, just like he's managing to do at this moment. Still, he can't help but wonder what good his magic is if it's only half-baked. He insists he's tried every type of magic this fantasy world offers, and at first it was thrilling. He thought that mastering magic would mean he'd have nothing to fear, but now it feels more like he's scrambling to learn magic just to save his own skin. That's when the harsh reality hits him. His mana capacity is alarmingly small. Without enough mana, there's no magic, and that spells trouble, possibly even death. As he wallows in his predicament, we discover that innate mana capacity is akin to an athlete's natural weight class. While some are born with extraordinary talent, our main character is stuck with a minuscule mana pool, and no amount of training will change that. Yet he clings to a glimmer of hope. If all else fails, there's a way to fix it. Just then, Evan interrupts his thoughts, announcing that his invitation to the ball has finally arrived, leaving our present puzzled about what he's talking about. The scene shifts a few days later to the grand ball, where our main character makes his entrance in some truly majestic attire. The fit is impressive, but being the introverted guy he is, he claims to be already worn out, even though he just got there. This party, let's call it what it is your typical aristocratic gathering in the southern part of the Asteria Kingdom. It's basically a meet and greet for nobles, and since our MC is about to be sworn in as a count soon, he really has to show up. He gets into serious mode, thinking this is his golden opportunity to network with the nobility, which is crucial for his ultimate goal of living a peaceful life. But soon enough he realizes that making those connections is going to be a lot tougher than he thought, as everyone seems to be fleeing from him in sheer terror. He even tries waving at them, but they literally just run away. Evan, his friend, tries to lift his spirits, telling him not to be down, but our guy insists he's not upset at all, even if his expression says otherwise. He tells Evan he expected this reaction and vows to try harder as he heads out on his own. However, our protagonist seems a bit clueless about what's really happening. He thinks the other nobles are looking down on him for being a low-class noble without any backing, and he's not entirely wrong. The current Palacio household is indeed filled with troublemakers, like his two older brothers. Picking up a wine glass, he assistants himself that he didn't come to the ball without a plan, and is determined to unlock the social skills he's been secretly honing. He starts talking aloud about the wine's unique aroma in an attempt to spark a conversation, but due to a mysterious condition that makes it hard for him to show emotions on his face, he ends up looking quite villainous, especially when he tries to smile. He tells a lady he'd love to have some bottles at home, all the while thinking his smile is perfect, but in her eyes he resembles a demon king, and she bolts, saying she'll tell her father to prepare them right away. To the other nobles, it looks like our protagonist just extorted and blackmailed the poor lady into giving him a limited edition regional wine. What a mess. Evan tries to comfort him, while our protagonist insists that the lady must have just been shy. Later, we find him sulking in a corner while Evan is happily munching on food, teasing him about how his list of gifts has grown. It turns out the wine incident wasn't a one-off. Every time he tries to talk to someone, they think he's trying to blackmail them, handing him things like a Pensia citrus tea and more. He can't shake the thought that Palacio has become way more notorious than he ever imagined. With rumors swirling about him having killed his two brothers, he's basically turned into a figure of fear and dread. Feeling down, he tells Evan he needs some fresh air. As he steps outside, a certain red-haired beauty catches his eye. While he's out there, he can't help but wonder where it all went wrong. Suddenly, a soft voice calls out to him from behind, asking if he has a moment. He turns around, puzzled about where the voice came from since he doesn't see anyone. Looking down, he finally spots a cute young girl who introduces herself as Lauria, the third daughter of Duke Altia. Hearing the name Altia, our MC recognizes it from the game, and he explains that the Altia family was one of the 3 major shadow players in the psychedelia game, known as the Northern Troublemakers. This realization stung a bit, as he had hoped someone normal had actually spoken to him. He also wondered why he couldn't recall this girl at all. Had she not appeared in the game? Lauria, however, was straightforward, asking him to lend her his strength for protection, as she will be facing an assassination attempt soon. Lauria explains that she's in serious trouble and needs our protagonist's help. But when he looks at her, it's clear he's unsure. You see, Lauria has been living under the protection of her father's mistress, but now that her father's health has taken a turn for the worse, she fears her older sisters might try to eliminate her. Our main character can't help but think this situation mirrors his own past with his brothers. As he gazes at her, it dawns on him that the reason he didn't recognize Lauria from the game is that she must have already been dead and never made an appearance. Lauria, looking as adorable as ever, pleads for his assistance, claiming that with his abilities, he could really make a difference. But our protagonist firmly turns her down. She insists she's not coming to him empty-handed. If he saves her, she promises to share half of the Altia family fortune. Still, he walks away, feeling a twinge of sympathy for her. Deep down, he knows he can barely manage his own magic, so it's best not to give her any false hope. Despite wanting to help, he's not the all-powerful figure everyone thinks he is. As he heads into the party room, he can't shake the image of Lauria's sad face, which makes him feel guilty. He wishes her luck before stepping inside. Meanwhile, Deas and Ren, who have been observing from a distance, start to wonder what their next move should be, since one of the Altia family members has approached their master. Deas ponders whether he should report this to the Red Moon, a code name for Yutia, but Ren reassures him that everything's okay because according to their intel, Lauria is the only member of Altia not tangled up with Avalon. This means she's pretty much safe since Radan, the one with the sin of mesophobia, has gone off to deal with the rest of her family. They've decided that the rest of the Altia household is going to be wiped out, all under the orders of the Red Moon. Ren adds that their main mission right now is to ensure their master doesn't catch wind of anything related to the Avalon situation. Meanwhile, our clueless main character is left wondering why everyone seems to be avoiding him. Does he have some sort of invisible barrier, keeping people at bay? Just then, the red-haired woman from earlier approaches him, and it genuinely brings a smile to his face. Well, more of an inward smile since he can't believe someone actually acknowledged him. He thinks maybe this time he'll actually manage to socialize. But as he turns around, he realizes she's not just any ordinary woman, she's another shadow player. Looking at her, he recalls seeing her face in the game, and it hits him that no normal person would approach him first unless they were trouble. He greets her, calling her Lady Zenonia, which surprises her. How does he know her name? Our protagonist explains that she's quite famous in her own right. In the Asteria Kingdom, there are 3 prominent shadow player families: the Altia in the north, the Palladio in the east, and the Zenonia in the west. This stunning curvy lady is introduced as the eldest daughter of Count Zenonia, Kalaya. She asks him if she's really that well known, and he explains that while Kalaya Palladio runs a gang, the Zenonia family operates more like a clever criminal syndicate. Just thinking about it makes him shudder. He insists that what he really needs are some solid connections to help him maintain his peaceful, noble life. For the sake of that easy life he's always dreamed of, he believes he must steer clear of this curvy, stunning woman who seems like trouble. With a respectful bow, he compliments her beauty, almost as if he's trying to say goodbye, but she stops him, saying she wants to have a word with him about something. He replies that he'd love to, but there are too many eyes on them right now. Deep down, he wishes she would just leave him alone. With a smile, she tells him he's just as the rumors say, and adds that she looks forward to seeing him again, leaving him completely dumbfounded. As she walks away, he wonders what that could mean, sensing it's some kind of code, but he shakes it off. Meanwhile, Rena and Deas, who have been watching from a distance, are pleased that their mission to keep our protagonist in the dark is going smoothly. However, Deas points out a problem. Looking out the window where our protagonist is standing, they spot someone who has been tailing him for a while, and they quickly rush out to deal with the threat. The next day, our protagonist and Evan find themselves in a forest, with Evan asking if he's really sure this is the canyon he's been searching for. Evan notes that it's midday, the sun is shining, but the canyon is oddly dark. Our boy, however, isn't paying much attention. He's ecstatic that he's finally found his true objective. As they venture inside, he jokes that if this place turns out to be empty like the others, he might actually cry. But as he looks at the symbols on the walls, he realizes this is the real deal. He explains that in the game, finding this place was a breeze. Truthfully, he admits that the only reason he traveled all the way to the south under the guise of attending the ball was to discover this labyrinth right here. The labyrinth, it's called the Labyrinth of Whispers, and if you can crack all the riddles in its 8 rooms, you'll earn a powerful artifact as a reward, exactly what he's after. He claims to have memorized all the routes and puzzles this labyrinth has to offer. Finally, he arrives at a massive door, and as he gazes at it, he confesses that seeing the labyrinth entrance in person is breathtaking. It feels so much more real than it did in the game. In the game, he tackled this labyrinth countless times. Evan, on the other hand, asks how our protagonist even knew a place like this existed. Our boy, without thinking, replies that he's been here often, leaving Evan puzzled about what this guy is talking about. Realizing he might have slipped up, our protagonist quickly backtracks, saying he was just kidding, and suggests they head inside. Once inside, they encounter some monsters and giant golem hands that could easily crush them like twigs. Evan wonders if these creatures are tied to the riddle, and if our boy gets the answer wrong, those giant hands will show no mercy. But our boy, unfazed, starts solving the riddle, leaving Evan to wonder how he can remain so calm in such a dire situation. Evan reflects that they've been together for 4 years now, yet he still doesn't understand him at all. Things like saving orphans, repaying random debts, helping free slaves, and even delivering seemingly pointless messages. Yeah, in Evan's eyes, our boy is a total weirdo. Still, watching him solve the riddles with ease makes Evan question how this is even possible. This guy has barely left the estate, yet he seems to know everything about this labyrinth. Regardless, Evan admits that the reason he keeps following this mysterious master of his is simple. Everything he does somehow leads to a good outcome. They finally make it inside, but our main character can't shake off the gruesome visuals of the game. He's feeling queasy, but as they step into a lavish room brimming with treasures and gold, his attention is immediately drawn to a hand statue adorned with multiple rings. He declares that their goal is the Black Ring, and insists they should grab it and get out fast. Meanwhile, Evan, who's busy stuffing his pockets with gold, questions why our protagonist is so fixated on the Black Ring, which looks like the least valuable of the bunch. Our hero explains that taking anything else could lead to trouble down the line. Deep down, he realizes he's finally got his hands on the ring that holds the oath of restraint. As they start to head back, our MC feels pretty pleased with himself, thinking that snagging the ring was a breeze thanks to his gaming knowledge. But Evan suddenly gets a bad vibe, and points out that the rock piles they passed while entering the canyon are actually golems, and they seem to be stirring. Evan quickly gets into battle mode, feeling anxious about their situation. To him, these golems are total unknowns, making this a nightmare scenario. He thinks that if he can just get his young master out safely, he wouldn't mind sacrificing himself. But our protagonist steps up, telling Evan to stand down because he'll take care of the golems. As the golems prepare to attack, Evan urges him to find an escape route first. With the golems closing in, Evan shouts a warning, saying his second-tier magic won't be enough to handle them. But our MC stands tall, confidently invoking the Oath of Restraint, which activates the Black Ring. Suddenly, time seems to slow, and he finds himself in a different dimension. A voice introduces itself as a fragment inheriting the great will of Nyasila, instructing our protagonist to state the 2 restrictions he wishes to impose on himself. Our main character finds himself in a pretty intense situation. In the game, this part showed up as a choice window. But now, hearing this mysterious voice and seeing a gigantic face looming in the dark cosmic expanse is a bit overwhelming. The Oath of Restraint is an absorption-type artifact, and as the name suggests, it lets the user impose limitations on themselves in exchange for power. However, the sheer force of the voice makes our MC tremble a bit. The voice urges him to declare his first restraint, and with a hand sign, he states that he will always perform the hand signs of Babylonia when casting magic. The voice then asks what he hopes to gain from this restriction, and our boy responds that he desires the ability to bend the laws of the world just a little more. The voice grants him this power. For his second restraint, our boy explains that he will strictly chant the words of Babylonia when using magic. When the voice inquires about his desire behind this restriction, he boldly claims he wants even greater power to defy the laws of the world, which momentarily surprises the mysterious entity. Our protagonist starts to worry that he might have messed something up, especially since the entity paused. He even mimicked the exact skill icon from the game just to be safe. By choosing both the hand signs and the word restrictions, he believes he can achieve the highest possible magic attack power. Thanks to all his repeated gameplay, he has memorized every combination used in the game, so this should work. Finally, the entity speaks again, confirming that his restraint has been granted. It expresses gratitude to the human who has remembered all the gestures and mysteries of the forgotten god. Our protagonist is puzzled by what the entity means, but he quickly notices that the ring is being absorbed, indicating that all the restrictions were successfully applied. The entity concludes by telling our MC that it will always be watching over him as the one who will inherit its will, whatever that means. Just then, time seems to start flowing again, and it's right as the golems launch their attack on our MC. Evan tries to reach him, but our hero, unfazed, begins to cast his magic. He can't help but chuckle at his own spell, thinking how in the game it looked so impressive and powerful, but now, thanks to his meager mana, it's just so small. He gathers it in his hand, reflecting that no matter how hard he pushes himself, this will always be his limit. But hey, it's time to test out his new restraints. I have to say, his magic looks majestic. Maybe it's the pose. Anyway, he starts chanting with the first word being refraction, which makes his magic begin to take shape. Then comes repulsion, causing it to swell in size, transforming into a stunning blue light of electric magic. The magic ball is massive. Using hand signs, he adds another chant for direction, and finally he unleashes it. The way he does it is so grand, reminiscent of how Gojo releases his hollow purple. The sheer power of our boy's magic leaves Evan in shock, as the lightning obliterates all the golems, turning them to dust. In the aftermath, Evan can hardly believe his eyes, wondering what on earth just happened. He asks our protagonist if he's been hiding his power all this time, but our boy shakes his head. Evan explains that in all his 15 years as a mercenary, he's never seen anything like that. He questions if our MC is really sure that was second-tier magic, to which our boy confirms. Though deep down, he's just as confused about what transpired. He admits that this wasn't at all like it was in the game. In the game's turn-based battle system of psychedelia, magic could be enhanced each turn through hand signs or incantations. This time, he boosted the chain lightning magic with all 4 incantations and hand signs for a total of 5 turns. In other words, he simply used magic settings for a large-scale lightning spell. However, because of his restraint oath, he had to use the hand signs and incantations for all his magic, meaning his spells were enhanced time and again. Even so, our protagonist felt that the second-tier magic he used was a bit over the top, and the results exceeded his expectations, which caught him off guard. Meanwhile, Evan was just relieved they made it out, and as he sat down, he remarked that watching the battle was way more exhausting than actually fighting. He asked our protagonist who had created such an unpleasant canyon. After a moment of thought, our hero realized that the Maze of Whispers had a different name in the game. The map layout and strategy guide were posted on the game's community website, and it was called the Maze of Paladon. He told Evan that a guy named Paladon was the one behind it, but Evan was too worn out to even process that information. I really love this duo. Our protagonist grabbed Evan, saying they needed to head back home because he had something in mind to do once they got there. This made Evan question why his usually lazy master was suddenly so motivated today. Our main character explained that every time he picked a hand sign that matched the spell's attribute he was casting, the power increased. If he chose the right incantation, the magic properties would get enhanced, which is how the game mechanics were designed to work. The only difference was that, unlike in the game where the visuals remained the same and only the numbers went up, in this world the spell actually changed shape with each incantation. But he suddenly wonders if this only applies to him, especially since he's particularly skilled at controlling mana. He decides he'll need to test it out once his mana has recovered, but for now he's just relieved that everything turned out okay. As they prepare to leave on their horses, we see Ren, who has been quietly following our main character, watching the whole scene unfold. She quickly makes her way to the canyon, and upon arriving she spots the runes on the wall and realizes she can actually read them. She explains that these are the glyphs of the Alanef Empire, which essentially tell the story of the era of the forgotten outer gods. Rene's eyes catch another glyph hidden in a corner, which she translates as, "For my friend who shall be left alone," from the coward Palin. As she examines the glyphs more closely, a smile spreads across her face. She shares that the one who halted the invasion of the dark creatures, standing victorious against the Al-Kalaka that devoured the hearts of the citizens, was none other than the brilliant emperor known as Palin the Great. The reason she knows all this is that she inherited all this knowledge at birth, thanks to the ancient library she received. She briefly recalls our main character mentioning that Palin was the one who built the canyon, but as usual she misinterprets the situation. She thinks that she knew our MC was special, since someone like the Bloody Queen Yutia follows him, which is a pretty big deal. Having someone like Yutia as a subordinate is something you'd only read about in history books. However, she continues to believe that our MC is actually a friend of Palin, completely misreading the glyphs he saw. Moreover, she claims that the phrase "our boy" used while casting magic doesn't exist anywhere in the ancient library, which only strengthens her belief that our MC is truly remarkable. Blushing, she admits that Yutia was right all along, feeling a bit embarrassed about having followed orders without question all this time. And just like that, our boy ends up with another yandere in his harem. Kind of a strange thing to say since they're basically just kids, but I digress. Anyway, Rena spots Deas arriving and immediately asks if he got any info from the fool who was tailing their great master. Deas responds that the idiot is dead, and he didn't even do it. It's more like the guy's head just twisted in mid-air. Rena insists they need to report this back to Yutia for processing, and Deas agrees, so they head out. Meanwhile, in Zenonia County, Lady Kalia is sipping her tea, pondering how our main character is just as the rumors say. She notes his chilling, emotionless expression and those abyss-like eyes. It bothers her that he called her famous. Count Zenonia is indeed strong and well-known, but for our protagonist to label her as famous despite not being involved in social activities is quite intriguing. What's really going on here is that Kalia is the true mastermind, using black magic to control her father, the Count, making her the real head of the family. The fact that our boy called her famous makes her think he might know something about her secret, which terrifies her since no one is aware that she's turned her father into a puppet. She recalls how our protagonist mentioned there are too many eyes on them, which she misinterprets as him having discovered the person she had following him. Now that's a classic case of misunderstanding, like something out of an Eminence in Shadow scenario. Suddenly, Kalia gets a call from one of her servants who says there's a problem. Well, she asks what's going on, and the servant insists that it's better for her to see it for herself. When she heads to her room, she discovers that the person she had following our main character is dead. The servant explains that since the seal on the body didn't activate, it means he didn't spill any secrets. But Kalia quickly points out that the person who killed her man must have intentionally brought him to her room. Frustrated, she starts questioning how our main character figured out she was the one who sent this guy to tail him. And just like that, our poor MC gets misunderstood once again. Later that night at the Altia Dokal estate, Lauria was feeling pretty low. She couldn't shake the feeling that our main character was exactly what she expected. Someone not to be taken lightly. To her, he had those cold eyes reminiscent of her father's, and it made sense why he was known as the distinguished one of the underworld. It kind of reminds me of the honored one from JJK, but I digress. Lauria realized she could never afford to make an enemy out of him, yet he was also her last hope. However, since he turned down her request for help, she misread his refusal, thinking it was clear he wouldn't take a deal that would leave him with nothing, especially since she had lost all her assets and power to her siblings. Speaking of siblings, there's the eldest son Timalian, the eldest daughter Marianne, the second daughter Pirin, and the second son Keeg. Being the youngest and the weakest, Lauria felt completely powerless. As she walked into the estate, she reflected on how she had managed to survive this long thanks to her father's love and mercy. But now that he was fading from the picture, she felt lost. Suddenly, she was jolted from her thoughts when the servants rushed in, breathlessly reporting that her siblings had all taken their own lives. She was left in utter disbelief. She knew they would never do something like that. Those fools would rather stab each other in the back, literally. The idea of them ending their own lives was just insane. She quickly demanded to know what had happened to Timalian and Marianne, only to hear that they had met the same fate. In a shocking twist, we see them actually stabbing each other, and it felt like the work of Deas pulling the strings, but it wasn't. As Lauria stands there in shock, trying to wrap her head around what just happened, we catch a glimpse of Redin, the sin of mysophobia, striding out of the Altia castle, boldly announcing that the mission is complete. As Redin fades into the night, Lauria is still reeling from the events. She recalls our MC reassuring her that she shouldn't worry because good things are on the horizon. Like everyone else, she's convinced that our MC is the true mastermind behind it all. In her mind, he's been playing it cool, hiding his claws until the perfect moment to seize control. Essentially, Lauria believes that our MC turned down her request at the party but secretly took out her siblings. Honestly, I can see why she'd think that. Just like our protagonist, she suddenly became the sole heir of the Duckle family overnight, which is pretty terrifying. Lauria starts to panic, questioning what kind of monstrous devil she's made a pact with. It's actually kind of hilarious. These folks are treating our MC like some all-powerful overlord, but if they only knew he's just a laid-back guy who prefers to chill all day. Anyway, Lauria is in full-on panic mode because there's no turning back now, and she can't shake the thought of what happens to those who betray our MC, especially with so many examples already out there. She steels herself to follow the path she's chosen. 2 months later, back at the Palatio estate, our main character receives a few gifts from the Duke of Altia. When he sees one of the gifts, Evan is taken aback. It's a bottle of Cernance wine, which is worth a small fortune, costing a few thousand gold coins per bottle. He can't believe he's actually holding one in his hands. As he reads the note inside, he's even more surprised to find it simply says, "With respect from Lauria Altia." This leaves him puzzled because Lauria is the one who sent him this gift, not her father. It dawns on him that this isn't just some noble trying to make a connection, and he can't quite wrap his head around it. Deep down, he feels a twinge of guilt for not being able to help her back then. He quickly asks the delivery guy if he's sure this gift is really meant for him, and the guy nods, explaining that the Duke herself prepared it and insisted he deliver it personally. That's when it hits him. Lauria has officially become the Duke of the Altia Dukedom, which completely surprises him. By the way, doesn't Lauria seem a bit older than she should? It's only been a 2-month time skip, but who's counting? Lauria, on her end, reflects on how quickly those 2 months have flown by. She shares that after her father's funeral, she took on the role of Duke following the succession ceremony. Looking around her office, she remembers how she couldn't even step foot in this room back then. The loss of her siblings happened so suddenly, but she was never suspected because she had a solid alibi. She was at the ball. She recalls that during that time, her siblings had taken down her secret organization, and when she returned to the mansion, she felt utterly powerless. But now she realizes that it was a surprising turn of events. Essentially, Lauria thinks our main character picked the perfect moment to take out her siblings, and even managed to give her an alibi, which makes her think he must have an incredibly high IQ to come up with such a plan. To Lauria, it seems like our MC pretended not to care about helping her, all to keep up appearances at the party that night, while he was actually busy cleaning up the mess behind the scenes. It's like some overlord-level scheming. These folks are really elevating our MC to legendary status. She even wonders just how far ahead he can see. She mentions that she didn't even bring up her father's funeral to him because she didn't want to add to his burdens. In any case, Lauria wraps up her thoughts by concluding that our MC must have helped her, because he needs the Altia Dukedom for some part of his grand plan. She acknowledges that while she managed to unite all the subordinate organizations of the Altia Dukedom, it still wouldn't be enough to match the hidden power our MC possesses, which can only mean one thing: he's after something from her. She points out that our MC is the Count of Palatio, a major player in the underworld, who has built his power and influence solely through his business savvy. Lauria wonders if there's even anything she could offer him that he doesn't already have. She also speculates whether our MC needs the Altia name to continue manipulating the political landscape from the shadows. But for now, she decides to focus on her own tasks, knowing that the Distinguished One will reach out to her soon. And just like that, our boy adds another problem child to the orphanage. And honestly, the nickname the Distinguished One is just too cool. I'm loving this series. Blushing, Lauria hopes that our MC appreciated her gift and the gratitude she sent his way. Yeah, things are definitely getting a bit out of control. Back to our MC, the delivery guy takes off, leaving him still bewildered about everything that's happening. He reflects on how Lauria was threatened with death, and now she's the Duke. Even Evan is scratching his head, wondering what's going on with our boy, but our MC senses that something feels off. Fast forward a few months, 5 years before the original story kicks off, and our boy has matured quite a bit. As Evan approaches him, he asks if he should start calling him Count from now on. But our boy reassures him that he can call him whatever he likes, since the succession ceremony hasn't happened yet. However, since a year has passed while he's been acting as the Count, the ceremony doesn't really hold much weight anymore. Deep down, our boy starts to feel a bit downcast, realizing that he never intended to become the Count in the first place. His original plan was pretty straightforward. This little rascal even jotted down some rules for himself on how to enjoy life in psychedelia. First, avoid the succession war. Second, settle down in Rodmill, and lastly, embark on a gourmet adventure. But he lifts his spirits, thinking that since he's gotten used to this new role, he can really make the most of being a noble. Which is true because the balance between work and relaxation is way better than he ever imagined. Anyway, Evan hands him a letter, saying it's from Yutia. As they head inside, our MC asks Evan if he's found out anything about the assassins who took his brother Leo's life. But Evan admits he hasn't got any leads yet. Still, he encourages our MC to give the Information Guild some time, since they're still on the case. This actually sheds light on why Yutia was so jumpy, and asks the other sins to ensure our boy didn't find out they were behind Leo's death. Anyway, Evan then asks what our boy plans to do with that information. sure that it's not about revenge. But our boy thinks to himself that the slight changes from the original game are probably butterfly effects caused by his actions, so he tells Evan he just wants to be ready for any surprises. Evan teasingly remarks that he sounds like a real count when he says that, but our boy just lets out a sigh. As he opens the letter from Yutia, he can't help but wonder what she has to share this time. In her letter, Yutia fills him in on life at the orphanage, mentioning how everyone is diving into their own hobbies. She highlights Deas, who she claims has become quite the expert in puppet manipulation, almost professional, she says. Then there's Solang, who loves gaming with her friends, and Rena, who still has her nose buried in books but has also taken to building sandcastles, and Rena. He's found joy in nurturing his garden. Hearing all this brings a smile to his face. This monthly ritual of exchanging letters has become a comforting routine, and each message warms his heart a little more. Even though he's never seen these kids in person, knowing they're thriving fills him with joy. He realizes, though, that he doesn't actually know how old they are. Curious, he asks Evan, who points out that they're now at an age where they can step out into the world. Evan mentions that the 5 great sins are just about ready to leave the orphanage, which surprises him. He hadn't expected them to grow up so quickly. He even pictures them as adults, coming back to thank him for everything he's done. It dawns on him that it might be time to let them go. When Evan questions this, reminding him that he brought them to the orphanage because they were hurting, he reassures him that they've grown enough to stand on their own now. It's time for them to forge their own paths. Deep down, he knows he cared for them just enough to prevent them from becoming the deadly sins, so they should be all right. Evan nods in agreement, acknowledging that since they're all healthy, it makes sense to set them free. Our boy recalls that in the Psychedelia game, each boss battle came with a vivid description of its setting through narration. Yutia had the gift of faith, Deas wielded the sword, Rena excelled in studying, Solang was a natural fighter, and Rena had the calling of an apostle. Essentially, our main character believes that if these kids harness their talents in the right ways and in the right areas, they'll be just fine when they step out into the world. So he's decided to write each of them a personal letter, and in a moment of self-praise, he thinks his plan is absolutely brilliant. While he's at it, he figures he should also prepare a special gift for each one of them. He can't help but imagine how thrilled the kids will be. After spending the entire day crafting the letters, he finally finishes up. Evan, who was meant to keep him company, has dozed off, and as soon as he wakes, he rushes off to deliver the letters before our MC can catch him. I really adore the bond between these two. Our MC wonders if he might get something back from these little landmines of his, once they make a name for themselves in the world. He wraps up his thoughts by encouraging them all to read his letter and venture out into the world, which is genuinely heartwarming. However, contrary to his intentions, the kids take his letters with utmost seriousness, as if they've received a direct command from Ains from Overlord. With a serious demeanor, Yutia informs the others that their orders have arrived, adding that their lord has prepared something special for each of them. And I have to say, even though it's only been about a year since the time skip, these kids have really grown up. Just look at Deas, he's so tall now. I kind of miss how small they used to be, but it's all good. As they each check out their letters, their reactions vary. Deas stays cool and collected as usual. Solang can't contain his excitement, and starts jumping for joy. Ren is still simping for our main character, and Yutia looks a bit confused by it all. Then we get a bonus panel that dives into the personalities of each of the sins, focusing this time on Ren. It turns out she has a passion for seeking knowledge, so if you want to get close to her, just gift her a nice book and you're golden. Back to the story, Yutia reminds the other sins that before they dive into anything else, they should all take a moment to read the previous letters she's been getting from our main character. Yutia insists that understanding our boy's orders requires a bit more insight. Hearing this, Solang lights up, asking if they can really all read them now, since before, only Yutia had that privilege. Yutia reassures them that since their lord and master has decided to give each of them individual orders, it's clearly time for everyone to be in the loop. However, as they read the letters, they're left speechless because the content is just casual small talk. Yutia quickly comforts them, explaining that our MC has always liked to disguise his orders as ordinary conversation. She even shows them the very first letter he sent her, which is just a friendly greeting and a complaint about how his brothers were picking on him. But Yutia interprets it differently, claiming that our MC was actually giving a target for elimination, and asking them to report back once a month. This misunderstanding continues, and the other sins just roll with it as if it's the most normal thing in the world. Deas points out that our MC is doing this to prevent any leaks of information, and Yutia confirms this, explaining that that's why they all need to learn to decipher our boy's orders through the letters and carry them out. Deas then questions whether, if our MC is worried about leaks, wouldn't it be better for them to visit him in person, or use a magic communicator? Rena agrees, saying that Deas has a valid point, since letters are the riskiest when it comes to information leaks. But Yutia, with a cold gaze, reminds them that they must never question the will of their great master. All they need to do is follow his orders. Even Deas feels a bit intimidated and reassures Yutia that he hasn't forgotten. Meanwhile, Solang, on the other hand, is just thrilled to have received a letter. She encourages the others to read theirs too, and as each of them opens their respective letters, they interpret the messages in their own unique ways. Deas announces that his orders are to head to Caliburn, the nation of knights, while Solang mentions she's supposed to go to the colony, which is smack in the middle of a desert. Rena says he's off to Raxas, the entertainment city, and Ren is set for Larthania, the maze city. Then there's Yutia, who in her full yandere mode insists she's heading to the Rosario Kingdom. And honestly, what's up with that artist? Why did they draw our girl like that? Not that I'm complaining though. Yutia then asks if everyone knows what they should do once they arrive, and they all nod in agreement. Deas admits he's not entirely sure why, but his orders are to become a knight. Solang reassures everyone that they've also been told not to worry, as the patronage will continue. Rena chimes in saying their master has also revealed the location of the gifts, and Rena adds that whatever those gifts are, they'll find out when they get there. Yutia praises them all and reminds them to keep one crucial thing in mind: unless their great master says it first, they should never mention the name of the blue moon. This basically means they can't reveal our boy's real name under any circumstances. And just like that, all the Sins left the orphanage, ready to embark on their respective missions. 3 months later, back at our protagonist's desk, he was diving into some research on magic. As he sifted through the information, he realized it was just as he feared. There was nothing new about the changes in magic and its phases. This meant he'd have to figure things out on his own. Glancing over at Evan, who was nearby, he asked how the search for the person who killed his brother Leo was progressing. Evan replied that the Information Guild still hadn't uncovered anything, leaving our protagonist deep in thought. He couldn't shake the feeling that the butterfly effect had spiraled out of control. After all, he had saved the 5 deadly sins, and even Lauria, who should have died long ago, was not only alive, but had also become a duke. That was pretty unsettling. She was amassing power and influence in the underworld at a frightening pace. Dude, he really doesn't get that all this influence is being set up for him. He then instructed Evan to halt the investigation into his brother's assassin. When Evan asked if he was sure about that, our protagonist reflected that sometimes ignorance is bliss. In the game world, it seemed like nothing could escape the Information Guild's network, and since this situation was doing just that, it felt like a recipe for trouble. He worried that these kinds of things could lead to unforeseen and pointless deaths. Ultimately, he reasoned that as long as he didn't interfere with the organization that killed his brother, they wouldn't pose a threat to him. There was no reason for them to attack unless he approached them first, and he had no plans to do that. So he told Evan that there was no point in continuing the search, and Evan nodded in agreement, saying he would inform the Information Guild to stop the investigation. Switching gears, Evan shares some news. It seems Deas has just been named a knight in Caliburn. Our boy, fully aware this was coming, simply brushes it off with a casual, "Good for him." Fast forward 3 months, and Evan has more updates. Deas has apparently formed an entire knight order, but again our boy shrugs it off, only remarking on Deas's talent. He then asks if this means Deas has reached at least the sword expert level, or maybe even higher. The sword skills are divided into 3 tiers: sword user, sword expert, and sword master. Our boy figures it hasn't been long since Deas was knighted, but Evan points out that people are buzzing about it, claiming the world will see the 5th master knight in under 10 years. Curious, our boy asks if Evan is referring to the rank of sword Caliburn when he mentions master knight, and Evan confirms it. Hearing that, our boy can't help but feel a swell of pride. 6 months later, a whole year has passed since the 5 deadly sins left the orphanage, and by now our boy is settling into his responsibilities as a count. Suddenly, Evan calls out to him with some fresh news. Deas has become a sword Caliburn, officially making him the 5th master knight in the kingdom. Our boy is taken aback and reminds Evan that only sword masters can achieve the title of master knight. The sword master of Psychedelia is a superhuman who has surpassed the aura blade and unlocked a unique ability called derivation. He presses Evan again, asking if he's sure Deas has really become a sword master. Evan clarifies that, to be precise, Deas is on the verge of becoming one. He just hasn't developed his derivation yet. Still, the kingdom has already bestowed upon him the title of Master Knight, and on top of that he has triumphed in a duel against the 4th sword. Evan adds that the 4th sword also fell to the northern barbarians, which our boy confirms, noting that according to the game's lore, they should have been at war for over a decade. Evan goes on to explain that mastering mana and learning to manipulate it within a person's body takes about 15 years, and creating a derivation can take several decades. The first sword, Reinhardt, was just 32 when he became the youngest Master Knight in history, and this all happens during the main story's Act 3. Reinhardt was incredibly strong. Even with his natural talent, it took him over 20 years to reach that level. Now here's Deas, a child with no sword knowledge, who's already a Master Knight. Our boy thinks that if Deas is just waiting for his derivation, it basically means he's surpassed Reinhardt while still being a sword master. He wonders if he can latch onto him sooner than he thought, and Evan, as usual, just nods as if it's the most normal thing in the world. But our boy quickly dismisses that idea, saying he can't do that. Just like that, Evan shifts his tone again. Anyway, our protagonist feels like Yutia is the only one who truly cares about him. It's been a whole year, and the only letters he's received have been from her. Even while navigating through the Holy Kingdom, Yutia kept sending him updates about the deadly sins, which shows they've been in touch. Yet he can't help but feel a bit down that these kids, despite never having seen his face, should have at least thanked him for the gifts he prepared for them back then. He feels a pang of guilt, but slaps himself across the face to refocus. He tells himself he's grateful they haven't destroyed the kingdom after awakening to their deadly sin powers. He reassures himself that as long as they're doing okay, he's happy with that. But I don't think Evan is buying it though. In the heart of Caliburn, right in the bustling central area of Kirtham, stands the grand mansion where the esteemed solar eclipse knights make their home. As the knights went about their usual training routines, our boy Deas watched from above. Known as the captain of the solar eclipse knights, and the youngest master knight in the kingdom, he had a lot on his mind. For the first time, we also catch a glimpse of his adorable little sister. From Deas's perspective, it's hard to believe that a whole year has passed since he left the orphanage. Reflecting on that time still makes him feel a bit embarrassed. You see, when Deas lost everything to the Black Organization, he was separated from his sister, whom he thought he had lost forever. That experience filled him with uncontrollable rage and hatred. It was during this dark time that our boy saved him. Deas explains that just being saved wasn't enough for him to pledge his loyalty right away. But when Yutia promised him a chance for revenge, he decided to follow orders under the blue moon, which led him through countless dangerous missions and intense training. Looking back, Deas admits he didn't care much about the missions or his own well-being. For years, he carried out tasks that would lay the groundwork for fighting against the dark forces. Eventually, he received his very first personal order, but honestly, he felt a bit skeptical about it, especially with our boy letter involved. In the letter, our boy instructed him to head to a small hotel in southern Caliburn, mentioning that he had left a gift for him there. At that moment, Deas wasn't particularly excited about the gift. However, when he stepped into that hotel, he was completely taken aback. Inside that unexpected letter from our main character was something truly precious. The gift was his long-lost family, his little sister. As he embraced her tightly, Deas realized this was a gift more valuable than life itself. I have to say, our MC is quite clever. He might have known all along where Deas's sister was, perhaps even saving her and orchestrating this heartwarming reunion. As Deas and his little sister Siley finally settled down for a chat, she opened up about her harrowing experience. She explains that after being separated from Deas and captured by those dark creatures, she found herself trapped in total darkness for what felt like an eternity. It wasn't just her either. There were countless others locked away in cages by these shadowy beings, all waiting for their turn to meet a grim fate. But when her moment came, she managed to escape thanks to a tiny glimmer of light. It turned out these black things were basically shadows, and just a bit of light was enough for her to break free. A few years later, she faced another danger, almost being sold into slavery. But in her darkest hour, the one and only Evan, the savior, appeared out of nowhere and rescued her. Honestly, Evan always seems to be the one going above and beyond to save these kids, while our MC gets all the credit. Siley went on to explain that after her escape, she received precious medicine and various gifts from someone she could only refer to as the sponsor. She showed her brother one of the letters our MC had sent her, where he promised to keep sending her medicine and support. The letter even mentioned that she was safe under the name Palacio, and reassured her not to worry about her brother. Just that one line made it seem like our MC was some kind of all-knowing mastermind. This revelation left Deas in absolute shock as Siley expressed her gratitude for everything our boy had done for her. Deas couldn't help but wonder how their great master even knew about his little sister. He had never shared anything about having a family, not even with Yutia, and he thought she was exceptional at gathering intel. She only noticed that he was troubled by the black things. So how did that man find out? That's when it finally clicked for him. He remembered how Yutia always insisted that their great master knew everything, and just like that, our main character's string of misunderstandings continues. All of Deas's questions and doubts about our MC suddenly fit together like pieces of a puzzle. He realized that back then he couldn't grasp Yutia's anxiety or why she was always so wary of our MC. But now he sees that the real fool was none other than himself. Deas recalls our MC telling Lauria that good things would come. At the time, he just didn't get it. But now he realizes that our boy was fully aware of everything. He was merely dropping hints for Lauria, who was left to fend for herself. This is peak misunderstanding, folks. At this rate, he might even surpass Sid from Eminence in Shadow, or start competing with King from One Punch Man. Anyway, Siley calls out to her brother, asking if he's okay, and Deas reassures her that he is fine. Deep down, however, He remembers Yutia warning them that a sword shouldn't act on its own. Since he did just that by questioning things, he figures their great master was generous and merciful enough to forgive him. Deas reflects that all he has been doing is chewing on hatred and thoughts of revenge against the Black Things. He realizes that the survival of his only family is a gift beyond measure. Memories of how Yutia was always so obsessed with our boy begin flashing through Deas's mind. He remembers her saying that eventually they would all understand why she follows that man. Back then he thought Yutia was just being a fanatic, but now he totally gets it. The letters, the orders, the blind trust. It wasn't blind at all. So, he vows that he has to repay our MC. To do that, he vows to become the pinnacle of Caliburn, the Master Knight. He even adds that he will create a personal knight order for our main character, filled with the best swordsmen in the world, and just like that, Deas has officially joined our MC's obsession camp. A few days later, Deas prepared to head out with his knights. His unit was dubbed the Solar Eclipse Knights, and Deas explains that this expedition they were going on would serve as the first stepping stone for them. Looking majestic as ever, he declares that he doesn't care what kind of hardship may come his way, as he awaits the day he can officially offer his gratitude along with a recompense that will satisfy our MC. He will prove his power under the Great Moon. I have to admit, he looks majestic as fuck. Anyway, the expedition Deas is talking about is the battle against the Northern Barbarians that our MC mentioned back in the game lore. In the meantime, back to our MC. He was enjoying a peaceful outdoor breeze while doing his usual research on magic. He couldn't help but think that his days had become so peaceful. He wondered if perhaps this was because all of his little landmines, the kids, are all grown up now. Suddenly, a breeze sends some of his papers flying, and as he scrambles to catch them, one really has to wonder how this idiot is getting so much praise and glaze from everyone. Anyway, going back to his research, our MC begins writing down all the things he has figured out about magic. He explains that after he got back from the labyrinth, he focused all his research on the phases of magic. Basically, using his knowledge of the game mechanics, each phrase he uses while casting magic changes the spell differently. For example, if he uses the phrase refraction, the magic spell gets an imperfection reinforcement. Refraction basically strengthens the imperfection within a completed spell, causing its range to spread outwards. It crashes the form of magic and alters the projectile. This leads to the next phrase, repulsion, which crushes the form of magic, affecting the transition of the fired projectile. Yeah, I don't know what any of that technical mumbo-jumbo really means. All I know is that it sounds awesome. Our boy goes on to explain that the blue light that appears from the phrase repulsion reinforces parallel magic, such as the electrical magic he used back then. And when you follow it up with diffraction, it converts the magic into a penetration or critical line, which basically means a critical hit effect. Essentially, our boy is trying to figure out which phrase combo is good with what kind of spell. The phrases have some very important rules though. If broken, the spell fails immediately. The most important ones are no mismatched phrases, no repeating the same phrase in a single spell, and only 4 phases are allowed per spell. He reasons that with his tiny mana pool he can only use one big magic spell per day, so it took him quite a long time to figure out this much. He explains that in this world setting, the hand signs and phrases of Babylonia have already been long forgotten. There was no information he could use as a guide. In fact, there wasn't even a single thing written about them. In the end, he had to do the research himself. He adds that even though he is basically learning magic just to save his own skin, he found it quite fun and enjoyable doing the research. He then begins casting magic, explaining that it's time to test the results of 2 months of research and experiments. The magic is electrical based, and as it takes shape, he uses one of the Babylonia hand signs. This causes the magic to change its shape by eliminating the focal point of his mana sphere, causing an imbalance to spark lightning. As it forms, he thinks the magic looks weak and worthless, but as he chants the phrase fixation, his magic takes shape and swells in size. Actually, it's pretty cool. He follows it up with the phrase compression, which condenses his lightning sphere into a tiny mana ball of electricity. He adds that by chanting the phrase breakdown, his magic will begin to fester a certain purpose. Finally, he follows it up with the phrase fleeting bloom. Using another Babylonia hand sign, his magic becomes even more grand. The spell literally reaches the sky and takes on the shape of a massive blooming tree of lightning. Looking at it, he points out that it seems the order of chanting the phrases actually matters, because when he tried it before, it failed because he used the phrase breakdown way too early. But suddenly, something catches his attention. Turning around, he is taken aback to see some unexpected visitors. The visitors were none other than Lady Kalia and her attendant. They were in utter disbelief at our boy's magic. Lady Kalia immediately recognized it as origin magic. Our MC was just as shocked, wondering what on earth this woman was doing at his place. Lady Kalia's butler explains that using origin magic basically means our boy is at the caliber of a 7th circle mage. Hearing this, our boy was horrified. He already knew this misunderstanding would bring nothing but trouble. Basically, magic is divided into circles, with the 8th circle being the highest, which means these idiots are now convinced our boy is some kind of grand mage. Anyway, we get this adorable bonus panel. focusing this time on Deas. In Caliburn, the nation of knights, a person can create their own knight order once they've been formally recognized by the king. And our boy Deas has been recognized and even dubbed by a sword from the king himself. I love how adorable the king is, trying to convince Deas to stay in his kingdom, while Deas is casually ignoring him, just thinking about our MC the whole time. A little while later, Lady Kalia and her butler find themselves waiting in the reception room, and to put it mildly, she is internally screaming. She figures she only had 2 reasons to visit our main character today. First, to figure out what this wildcard intends to do with the underworld, since he could easily inflict some serious damage on her own county of Zenonia, and second, to gauge the power level of the organization protecting him. She genuinely believes our boy has a whole secret society backing him up, allowing him to control the Palatio underworld from the shadows. I absolutely love this misunderstanding. Our boy literally does nothing but breathe, yet somehow everyone convinces themselves he's playing 4D chess. Lady Kalia continues her internal panic attack, realizing that instead of answers, she found terror. She notes that she never thought she'd see the day her arrogant butler would quiver in fear, which makes her even more uneasy. Her butler, Vienkel, is a 5th circle mage who was banished from the magic tower for his inhumane experiments. He's a guy who can annihilate an entire division of soldiers with a flick of his wrist. Yet despite always keeping his attitude in check around Kalia, his longtime sponsor, the fear in his eyes is undeniable. Kalia admits she's never seen him like this before, and honestly, she's right. The guy is trembling like a leaf. As both of them continue to cower, wondering if the magic our MC was casting earlier was truly the legendary origin magic, our boy finally makes his entrance. And since our MC has a chronic condition of resting villain face due to his inability to show proper emotions, he looks like he means business. He asks Lady Kalia what brings her to his county, and right off the bat she apologizes for dropping in unannounced, saying she's been eager to meet him for quite some time, but our main character, being the socially awkward genius that he is, interrupts her. With a look that could rival a demon lord, he insists on making one thing perfectly clear. The magic they witnessed back then wasn't origin magic. He goes on to clarify that he's only at the 2nd circle of magic. He even points out that the mage beside her should have realized that his spell didn't have any effect at all. Essentially, he's just trying to be upfront. Inside, he's freaking out, convinced that the magic he used earlier is totally useless for both defense and offense. He was really just playing around with the phrases of magic. But when Lady Kalia and Vienkel see his lifeless eyes, they completely misread the situation. All they catch is "keep your mouth shut about this or else." It's honestly hilarious. Vienkel, still shaking, quickly agrees with our main character, stammering that he must have seen it all wrong. Even Lady Kalia is surprised by how respectful Vienkel is being towards our protagonist. Hearing this, our clueless MC thinks he's smoothed things over just fine. He tells Lady Kalia that now that the misunderstanding is sorted, they should really get down to business. Kalia mentions that she was planning to swing by after he wrapped up his errands in the county. Hearing this, our boy can't help but ask if that means she doesn't have any special reason for her visit. Kalia nods in agreement, so he straightforwardly tells her that if that's the case, he won't have time to chat because he's got real work to tackle. It's like he's telling a powerful noble to take a hike. Lady Kalia immediately stands up, saying she gets it. She thanks our MC for his time and gets ready to leave. But just before she heads out, our boy drops a surprising suggestion. He tells her that if she really needs someone to talk to, she should go see Duchess Altea. He even throws in that Altea and Kalia would probably hit it off. This catches Lady Kalia off guard, which is totally understandable. I mean, just look at the expression on our boy's face when he said that. I can already tell she's going to take it the wrong way. Still, Kalia agrees that if our MC thinks it's a good idea, she'll pay Lauria a visit. And without wasting any more time, they head out. Once they're gone, Evan turns to our protagonist and asks why Lady Kalia, from a fallen family, would come all the way to Palatio. Our MC shrugs and says he has no clue. In fact, he adds that he can't even begin to understand her reasons. Deep down, he thinks this is just going to stir up trouble. If false rumors start flying about him using origin magic, every battle-hungry fool looking for a challenge will come knocking. And honestly, he's not wrong. Psychedelia is a dark fantasy game, after all. He just hopes those idiots grasped what he meant. He also wonders why someone like Lady Kalia would even think of visiting Altea, who is basically her rival in the underworld. He just hopes they keep him out of it. This guy has no idea what he's just set in motion. As they ride away in their carriage, we get a glimpse into Lady Kalia's thoughts. She turns to Vienkel and asks if the magic our main character used earlier was truly origin magic. Vienkel quickly shakes his head, saying no. This prompts Kalia to wonder why he seems so frightened. Vienkel explains that origin magic operates under its own set of rules on the canvas of the Absolute. It's a type of magic reserved for only the most accomplished mages. However, Vienkel reveals that when he examined our MC's magic, it was something entirely different. Using his observation magic, he saw our boy actually tearing at the canvas itself. He was bending the fundamental, unchanging laws of magic. It was like witnessing someone break the laws of physics without any sleight of hand. Viankel goes on to say that our MC took the lightning, twisted it, and shattered the very laws of the world. And even after all that, the magic still came to life. He essentially pulled off an impossible miracle. But what really shook Viankel was what happened next. He recognized the unmistakable power of the great forgotten gods. What he witnessed was no illusion. Our MC had made a binding vow with the Ring of Restraint, giving him the ability to manipulate the world's laws at will. Frustrated, Viankel clutches his head, insisting he needs to stop dwelling on it because this knowledge is incredibly dangerous. He recalls how in his youth he was celebrated for his studies on the magic of the forgotten gods, so he knows the weight of what he's saying. He warns Lady Kalia directly. She must never, under any circumstances, challenge the Count of Palacio. Realizing this, Lady Kalia comes to the sobering conclusion that it's futile for someone as insignificant as herself to try to decipher our MC's motives. She remembers him telling her to visit the Duchess of Altia, and mistakenly interprets it as a direct command. In that moment, she feels like she's unwittingly become a pawn in our boy's game. Fast forward 5 months, it's been about 2 years since the 5 great sins left the orphanage. Our main character and Evan are just going through their usual lazy routine when our boy asks if Evan has any fresh news. He hopes it's about the kids, but Evan has to break it to him that while he does have some news, it's not about the children. He shares that Zenonia County and the Altia Duchy have apparently formed an alliance. This news leaves our MC completely stunned. How could the 2 biggest players in the underworld team up? Evan tries to calm him down, saying it's probably just a temporary arrangement for the underworld. And even though it's not common knowledge, the intel is reliable. Hearing this, our boy starts to feel a wave of panic. Just when he thought he had steered the 5 great sins onto a better path, now he has to face a supervillain collaboration between 2 underworld geniuses. He can't help but wonder if the Asteria Kingdom is on the brink of disaster again. Then it suddenly dawns on him. He wonders if Kalia actually took his advice seriously back then. And she did, since he was the one who basically nudged her to visit Duchess Altia. Pushing those anxious thoughts aside, he tells himself it's probably just a short-lived alliance. In the game, Kalia was known for her cold and arrogant demeanor, so this shouldn't last long. But just to be safe, he decides to prepare for the worst. He even writes an apology letter to Kalia, explaining that the reason he came off as blunt before is simply that he struggles with words. I can already picture Kalia misinterpreting this letter as some sort of cryptic message or command. Anyways, our boy sends Evan off to deliver the letter through the mercenary guild, and Evan promises to keep an ear out for any updates about the children. Speaking of the kids, our protagonist glances at the last letter he got from Yutia, and starts to wonder how Radon and Solang are faring. It's been radio silence since Yutia confirmed they made it to their destinations. He can't shake the worry that Solang might be lying dead in some alley. It's a legitimate concern considering Solang, the sin of pride, always seemed to be the most reckless of the bunch. He figures that if Solang found the gift he left for her, she should rise to become the ultimate fighter, the Baba Yaga. The gift he's talking about is the essence of the Golden Mane tribe. If she had managed to snag it in the game, it would have kept her from falling into corruption. Instead of being a sin, she would have transformed into a great wolfkin. That's literally what the item description says. Our boy thinks that since he tipped her off about the hidden treasure, which he originally intended to use as emergency cash, she should be alright. He sent her to the desert colony, a land of warriors, where sheer strength can earn you everything. She's got the talent to make it there. Anyway, deep in one of the desert caves, we finally catch up with Solang. She proudly announces that she's conquered all the trials. And honestly, she's just the cutest. She's cleared the dungeon, and finally snagged the gift our boy sent her. She genuinely thanks the Great Moon, our main character, for the present. Being her playful self, she confesses that she once thought the essence of the Golden Mane tribe was merely a myth. But now she's come to realize that all those bedtime stories from her childhood were actually true. We get this adorable flashback of Solang's tribe, where they used to share tales about the essence of the Golden Mane tribe. In these stories, she learns that the Wolfkin tribe descends from the king of all beastkins, the Golden Mane tribe. This essence is a legendary artifact that has been passed down for centuries, bestowing incredible strength and authority upon its wearer. Solang believes that her ability to acquire this legendary item and successfully navigate all the inner world's trials necessary to wield it is no small feat. She sees our main character as her savior, the one who rescued her from a meaningless death in a bio-experiment. Solang realizes that not only did our main character save her life, but he also empowered her to seek revenge on the black dragon that took her parents away. With her magic unleashed, she promises to repay him for his kindness, and she figures that he wants her to become the greatest gladiator in the world. From this moment on, she is determined to become the strongest gladiator and restore the Golden Mane tribe by reuniting her scattered clan members. And to achieve that, she vows to take down the black dragon. As she steps out of the cave, she declares that everything she does is for that man. Looking as adorable as ever, she announces that it's time to start. The great kings of the Beastkin tribe, the Golden Mane tribe, will rise again under the blue moon. This essentially means our guy now has 2 powerful minor organizations pledging their loyalty to him. In fact, it's 3 if we include Lauria and Kalia's underworld alliance. At this rate, our boy is on track to become the leader of a nation without lifting a finger. Meanwhile, let's check back in with our main character. He's having his usual chat with Evan while flipping through some documents. Evan mentions that the Information Guild has managed to dig up some details about the children, the 5 great sins. To be honest, Evan was supposed to share this news a while ago, but it slipped his mind. Trying to keep it casual, our MC asks what the scoop is, and Evan reveals that Solang has been doing exceptionally well in the colony, even earning the nickname the Golden Flash. I can't help but adore that cute chibi version the artist always sneaks in whenever Solang is on screen. Anyway, our guy feels like he's heard the name Golden Flash before, but it's just not coming to him. Regardless, he's just happy to hear that Solang is doing well. Evan points out that in that land, anyone can become anything as long as they're strong, kind of like the lawless city in Eminence in the Shadow. Curious, our MC then asks if Evan has any updates on Radon, the sin of mysophobia, since he hasn't heard from him since arriving in the entertainment city of Raxus. Evan mentions that there's some info about Radon, but the Information Guild is still checking its accuracy. Upon hearing this, our MC calls Evan out, asking why he's just lounging around when he should be busy. Evan is puzzled, thinking he's done everything he was supposed to do, but our MC reminds him that he was supposed to start getting ready for their journey to the Magic Tower, something that's going to take at least a month. Hearing this, Evan is taken aback, exclaiming that he had no idea they were heading to the Magic Tower. Our boy wonders if he really forgot to mention it, but Evan, who's pretty used to these surprises, just lets out a sigh. He insists that a month seems excessive. Getting to the Green Magic Tower should only take about a week or so, but our boy clarifies that they're actually going to the Blue Magic Tower, asking if he's talking about the one near the Labyrinth City, which is quite a trek. Still, he reassures our main character that he'll get started on preparations right away. Left to his own thoughts, our MC starts to grumble about his own laziness. He can't believe he's going to be stuck in a carriage for an entire month. Just the thought of it is already wearing him out. This guy really knows how to procrastinate, but he reminds himself that he doesn't have a choice, especially since the item that can help with his tiny precious mana hole is waiting for him there. As he reminisces, he recalls the Labyrinth City and the fond memories it brings back from his gaming days. He used to spend countless hours grinding there. The labyrinth at the heart of the city is the iconic level grinding spot in Psychedelia. Players could snag better items by leveling up and delving deeper into the labyrinth. Yet despite the throngs of players, no one ever made it to the end. It drove them nuts. Nobody could figure out why the developers kept adding floors when no one could reach that far. Some even resorted to cheat codes to hit floor 150, but the labyrinth just kept on going. Our MC explains that, just like in the game, relics and artifacts are always popping up in these labyrinths. Because of this, the role of official magic appraiser has skyrocketed in popularity, practically guaranteeing wealth for those lucky enough to land the job. And one such fortunate soul is none other than Rena, the embodiment of greed. Our boy muses that with her skills, she must have breezed through the appraiser exams. But as he reflects on it, he starts to wonder if the gift he picked out for her was a bit underwhelming compared to what the other kids got. After all, his gift is just an item that appraises other items. He even thinks about whether he should send her some extra support if his gift didn't quite cut it. But that's a dilemma for another day. In the maze-like city of Larthania, where the layout is as twisted as a real labyrinth, especially the houses, there's no one in charge. It's essentially a haven for explorers and mercenaries. If you wander past the countless shops in the southern part of town, you might stumble upon a hidden appraisal shop called Murdy. This little gem has quietly made a name for itself, mainly serving nobles and A-rank explorers. Among its regulars is the Lord of Larthania, a man sporting a rather peculiar beard. And as you might have guessed, the one running the shop is Rin. While she works, Rin wears a mask to conceal her face. At the moment, she's just wrapped up appraising a magical item that ignites flames using mana for the Lord of Larthania. Rin explains that the item can be imprinted, and when the Lord inquires about what she means by imprinted ability, she clarifies that with just a bit of mana, the flames will burn for an hour. This news delights the Lord, as the item's efficiency has significantly improved. Imprinting essentially upgrades an item to the next level, and the specific imprinted ability varies based on the item. Once the customers leave, Rinde takes off her mask and spots a special item nearby. She picks it up, claiming it can be imprinted as well. She goes on to explain that the real reason her shop has gained such fame, even though it's tucked away in a corner, is because of this imprinting ability. According to her, it's a gift from their great moon. This is actually the item our boy gifted her, but as we know, our main character isn't the sharpest tool in the shed. He believes this special item can only appraise other items, but little does he know, it also has a hidden function that can upgrade items too. With a smile, Rinde recalls how when our MC first suggested she become an appraiser, she was completely baffled. Reflecting on her earlier misunderstanding, when she thought our MC was some enigmatic figure from the age of the forgotten outer gods, she realizes that everything he's been doing was aimed at getting rid of the dark forces, those mysterious beings that took Deas' sister. But when she received the orders to go to the labyrinth city and become a magic appraiser, she couldn't see how that would help in battling the dark forces. She was genuinely confused about why he sent her to a place like this, until she laid eyes on the gift he had given her. The item is called the Eye of the Stalker. What a cool name. It quickly identifies items that fall below a certain mana threshold. Essentially, it's like a handy assistant for appraising. But that was just the beginning. Its true potential was yet to be revealed. Rena, who was born with the ancient library, instantly recognized that this item was nowhere to be found in any records. When she broke its seal, its true imprint ability kicked in, allowing her to handle up to 500 items. As usual, Rena misinterpreted the situation, thinking our main character must have known everything, and gifted her the item to help her gain the strength needed to combat the dark entities. To fully awaken the item, she needs to offer 500 unique items as sacrifices. Right now, she's managed to sacrifice 2048. With a mischievous grin, she thinks that only 252 more are needed before she can unleash the full power of this divine gift. However, the item only responds to specific high-tier relics. If she tries to sacrifice a low-tier relic, all her progress vanishes. It's like a picky eater that only wants the finest cuts of meat. That's why Rena has to appraise each relic before making a sacrifice. Then she starts acting a bit strange, hugging the item and declaring that their great master must have known she was the only one fit for this task, given her connection to the ancient library. Things are definitely getting a little odd. It seems Yutia might have some serious competition in the Yandere department. She insists that everything she does is for his grand will, and that it will all unfold according to the will of the Great Moon. 3 weeks later, our main character finally makes it to the Blue Magic Tower, and let me tell you, it's a sight to behold. Inside, he encounters the Vice Tower Master, a 6th Circle mage named Fenia Krysin. She's a petite woman who bluntly tells him to either state his business or get lost, leaving him a bit shocked by her rudeness. As he looks at her, he realizes she seems familiar. She was a key character in the Psychedelia game. At this point, she's still the Vice Master since the main story hasn't kicked off yet. In the game, she was a prodigy who reached the legendary 8th Circle by the age of 20 and became the master of the Blue Tower. He explains that magic towers aren't just powerful, they also control the production of vital goods, giving them a status comparable to that of nobles. Even though the Vice Tower Master has surpassed human limits, he can't shake off the feeling that her tone is way too disrespectful. He introduces himself as the Count of Palladio and mentions he's there to discuss the Time Gate, but Fenia completely brushes him off. He goes on to explain that he's here to deal with the Time Gate. This Time Gate is a rift leading to a mysterious subspace that pops up in areas with heavy magic use, causing all sorts of chaos and damage. Fenia, using her observation magic on him, can't help but mock him, asking what someone with such little talent thinks they can do about a Time Gate. Honestly, it's pretty funny. She waves him away, telling him to scram. Our guy is left in total disbelief. Evan, who's supposed to have his back, is just standing there watching. Gotta love this guy. When our MC presses for an answer, Fenia snaps back in irritation, saying that plenty of people have come before him promising to close the Time Gate, but they all end up failing. He confidently insists he's being truthful, and all she needs to do is point him in the direction of the Time Gate. Inside, he's wondering why she has to be such a pain. He even feels a bit wronged by the whole situation. Fenia then mentions that she gets he needs something significant to sway public opinion, especially since people are starting to realize he became a count purely by chance after all his siblings passed away. With a surge of mana, she warns him that he can't just stroll into a magic tower acting all tough. This leaves our guy stunned, as he wonders who's been spreading these rumors about him. It's been a few years since he did anything outrageous, and now people think he's gone soft, which to be fair is somewhat true but doesn't really matter. He also notices that even though Fenia seems like a total workaholic, she's surprisingly well informed about what's happening outside, and that's a bit intimidating. Panicking, our MC admits he was annoyed with her earlier, but after witnessing her magic, all that irritation just vanished. Evan leans in and whispers that if they try to take her on, they'll end up in serious trouble, so he should tread carefully. But desperate to prove himself, our boy strides over to Fenia and declares that if he can't eliminate the Time Gate as promised, he'll hand over all his property to the Magic Tower. Fenia thinks he's joking, but he insists he'll even swear an oath. This takes her by surprise, and she agrees to guide him. When they arrive, she reminds him that as promised, all his wealth will be hers if he fails. He confidently replies that there's no way that will happen. Fenia thinks this is the perfect opportunity to see what he's really made of, especially since everyone hails him as the leader of the underworld. Looking at his mana hole, she figures he's just been lucky. While she admits he has an otherworldly presence, the reality is he has a tiny mana hole and only slightly above average energy sensing, barely at the 2nd circle. She can't help but wonder what he plans to do with such underwhelming skills. Meanwhile, our MC shares that honestly, There's no need to worry about closing the time gate. In just 3 months, it'll vanish on its own after releasing the relic he's after. That's where the research wraps up, and it seems no mage skilled enough to close the gate will show up. Yet the time gate at the Blue Magic Tower keeps causing chaos for over 2 years. As our boy starts using a Babylonia hand sign, Fenia can't help but tease him again, questioning why he's opting for hand gestures instead of a staff. Even the oldest tomes consider hand signs a basic method, almost like something out of a fairy tale. But while she's busy mocking him for mimicking the signs, our boy begins to cast, and suddenly, everything goes eerily quiet. Fenia finds herself frozen. She can't move. Using her observation magic, she scans him and is taken aback to see him defying the laws of the world as a gigantic eye materializes in the sky. When it opens, Fenia feels as if an evil god is staring right at her. I honestly can't wait to see her reaction to all this in the next chapter. And just like that, we've reached the end of today's story. I want to give a heartfelt thanks and a big shout out to my channel members. Thank you for supporting this channel. It really means a lot. If you are interested in supporting your boy, feel free to join the channel membership by visiting the description down below. And just like that, we've come to the end of today's story. If you're still with me, drop the word ice cream in the comments. It's a little nod for those who stuck around till the very end. A simple like goes a long way in helping this channel grow, and subscribing means you won't miss out on the next chapter. Thanks again, and be sure to check out this one next.